Hello everyone, welcome to the another episode of the Pushing Horizon podcast. I am your host Ash. Today's episode is more than just running. It's about transformation, resilience, and the wild joy of pushing beyond what you thought was impossible. Today's guest is Kate, someone I have followed for a while, someone whose journey into the world of ultras has nothing short of inspiring. From casually running roads in the flatland to crossing a 100k trail race. Kate's story is a reminder that progress doesn't always follow the expected path. She didn't wait for permission, she didn't wait for 10 years, she just went for it. We talk about the leap, what sparked her love for trails, how the Barkley Marathon lit a fire in her, and why ultras, with all their chaos and beauty, have brought back the joy in her running. This conversation dives into mental strength, training rituals, gear wins and fails, and the freedom that comes when you stop chasing splits and start chasing experience. So, whether you are stepping into the world of ultras, stuck in the road PB grind, or simply looking for a reason to lace up and get moving, this one for you. So let's get right into it. So let me please introduce you to our guest today. Hey kid, thank you so much for letting me do this and giving a time early morning Friday.
Welcome,
And
and I'm happy to be here.
thank you for this and welcome to the podcast. I'm really eager to see and learn about your journey. It's been one hell of a ride from my end because I saw you were running not so long distance and then you kept running faster and then longer and longer and then you did your ultras before you did a marathon, just like for all of us runners, like oh 5k, 10k, and then you did 30k and then 40k and then you did 100k. It's going to be interesting. I have been following you, so can you please give a quick introduction so all of our guests know about you?
I've started running regularly, I think 4 years ago. I'm not sure about it. 3, 4 years, something like that. Then I had to deal with some injuries due to overuse. There were a few setbacks, but then I started training for half marathons. I ran my first half marathon 3 years ago. I started with half marathons, and then last year I got more and more interested in ultra running. I've heard about that before, but I always thought, oh, I'm gonna need 10 years until I get there or something. But yeah, last year I thought, hey, why not? Just try it. And that's what I did. And this year I actually ran my first 100K, and it's just the beginning.
I know. That's why I said because I was following you, and then you were not doing a lot of distance, and then it getting bigger and bigger, and then I was like, wow, incredible journey.
Thank you.
So you thought doing this ultras and everything. What inspired you to get into the ultras, especially on trails?
Last year in spring, I heard about the Barkley Marathons in the US. I had never heard of that one before, but then I watched the documentary, The Race That Eats Its Young, and I was fascinated. I would never consider doing the Barkley Marathons like ever, I think.
Oh
Was
no,
fascinated by what these people are doing. And yeah, I think that was what inspired me to start ultra trail running.
Barkley is insane.
Yes,
Like I was that, and I don't remember her name, but she was one of the finishers. There were five finishers. It was last year, and then she
yes,
finished
yeah,
right before the cutoff, and that feeling, that emotion, and even though, like you said, I probably never dream of doing that, but just seeing that mental resilience and then determination, and then it's hard. Running is hard, but
yes,
again, if you run for so long, and especially when you have to get that cutoff, it's incredible. And then I saw
yeah,
the clip and how everybody was jumping and like happy, and wow, it's the
yeah.
best feeling. You never know though. You could be doing this one.
See,
I can see that happening because your progression is so fast.
but I think I would have to learn to navigate. Yeah, and I live in a very flat area, so getting in the elevation required for that race would be really tough. But who
Yeah.
knows?
Yes, elevation might be tough, but then
Yeah,
again, there are other things you can do to compensate that.
yeah.
But I can see you literally doing it because it's amazing how you did smaller things and then you keep going bigger and bigger. And I've been following this all, and I talk to you a lot on Instagram too, and it's just wow,
Yeah,
it's amazing. So yeah, I'm happy for you because
thank
you're enjoying this. So you talked about this love for trail running and Barkley
you.
Trail like inspired you. So do you remember your very first trail run
Yeah.
and what stood out for you from that?
My first official trail was in the tiny hills near our city. So they are like really tiny, like the highest of them is like 100 meters. So I don't even call them mountains because they're just hills. But there's some nice forest and some nice trails around there. And I ran there and I noticed that somehow the kilometers pass by so much more quickly than they do on the road because every kilometer looks different and there's a lot of distraction around. And And I also thought the pace becomes a bit more relative because it depends so much on the terrain you're running on. If you go uphill, you slow down naturally, and that's fine. And I didn't worry about pace so much when I ran on the trails.
Yes, that's the thing I love about it. It's more about the journey and you enjoy it rather
Yeah,
than in the road. It's just like heads down, headphone
yeah,
in, and you
absolutely.
just keep running and running. And I think that's is probably one of the main reason I wanted to do ultras because
Mhm.
I like to do marathons, but I think I just don't want to fall into this trap of trying to run faster and faster because that's what you want to chase every time. Because every time you run a marathon, then you want to go faster and faster. I originally wanted to do the Boston Marathon, so to do
Oh,
that, you have to progressively be faster and faster. And I think I started hitting it since last Berlin Marathon because it was not fun anymore.
yeah,
And I talked with Bo first in the podcast, and then I
yeah,
talked to Milton and Bobby, and they were just talking about the trail running experience. And I follow Angus a lot. I see all the trail runs he done and what he achieved. I was talking to
yeah,
Erin. I hope I say her name correctly. And she told me the struggles of her 100 Ks, how she was injured and how she's doing everything. The next day, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it because unless
yeah.
you sign it, then it's not official yet. I just wanted to make myself accountable now, and I'm going to do it because it sounds fun. And
Yes, it definitely is. And I'm
yeah,
excited to follow along.
that she was smiling all the time. And everybody in trail running is usually everybody smiling and having fun. I also want to do that, and I don't want to keep running harder and not enjoy it because I have not been enjoying it for a while. I'm excited and nervous. The trail run I registered it 950-meter elevation. I have never done that.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting how it goes.
Yeah, but I can relate to that so much with always chasing faster times on the road because I feel like always a certain pressure behind it. That's what at least it feels for me. I think there are people who are just doing it for fun and who don't care about their times at all, but I'm not that kind of person. If I run on the road, then I want to go fast and I want to go faster than I did last time. And yeah, that's a lot of pressure I put on myself then. And yeah, that can take the fun away from it.
That's what happened because I ran my first marathon Berlin the year before, and then I did it at 5:05 or something. That was my first ever marathon, and then I did Freiburg and I got a PR, but I was not happy. And then the next one Berlin Marathon, and I trained so hard for it, but then
Yeah.
I got injury and sickness right before it, and that is just disheartening because you train so much and then you put in so much time, and then it's just like,
Yeah, it's frustrating.
and also the pressure is just too much. Everybody wants to run faster than the last marathon because that's the ultimate dream, right? Because we want the PB and we want to chase it, and it just doesn't get fun anymore because you are just so focused on the
Yeah,
time and not the journey. Like I said,
yeah,
yeah. And I'm hoping this is a change and I can enjoy running again because I still don't feel the joy that I
yeah,
had because I'm realistically training for the Berlin Marathon again. This will probably the last marathon on the road for me. So I want
yeah,
to do one last time and then see how I get my time. And then I think trail is going to be thing for me to moving forward.
yes.
Yeah, we'll see. So from that very first trail run or trail race you did, what has been your biggest aha moment?
Yeah, I've thought a while about this. Actually, I was like really surprised when I ran that 100K because I always thought it's such a long distance. So there has to be a point where I want to stop or where it does hurt really bad. And I thought you gotta have that feeling of, I don't want to do this anymore. I was prepared for that, like mentally prepared, and I waited for that point to come, but it never came. And then when I finished it, I was like, oh wow, that didn't hurt as bad. Actually, it didn't really hurt at all. My toes were hurting in the end, but there wasn't this big pain or a moment where I wanted to stop. And I was surprised because I thought, okay, ultra running doesn't always have to hurt. Yeah, wow. Because
Interesting.
well, from what I heard before and what I read, and I thought you had to hurt and you had to go through some pain at some point, but obviously don't always have to.
I'm
Yeah,
glad that nothing hurt, which is a good news, and it just shows the training that you have been doing paid off.
yeah.
Kudos to you because you were putting a lot of effort. Because I was looking at your runs and then 30Ks again on the weekends over the weekend, and it's like over 160 kilometers. Like you were doing insane amount of work.
I did a lot, that's true. Maybe that, yeah, was also a reason because for me not hurting in that race because my body was just well prepared for it. But still, I was glad that I didn't experience any major pain.
Me too. And I also noticed that there were some low points in your career so far, Johnny Perez, with the injuries or so.
Yeah.
How do you deal with a low point when you're running an ultra?
Honestly, I don't have that much experience with low points during ultras until now, because so far I have ran 3 official ultras and I think 2 or 3 during my training, like mini ultras. But yeah, there weren't such low points that I really had to fight through it. So I think, yeah, that's gonna come. There are gonna be low points, but until now, I didn't really have to fight during a race. But I think if a low point comes, then I would try to somehow distract myself from it, maybe. Yeah, and I think also food can help a lot. Like sometimes it's just the body lacking energy, and then it might help a lot to just eat something, get calories in, and we'll see.
Yeah, that is good to know. Hopefully, it doesn't come.
Yeah, I think it will come someday. That's part of the game, I guess.
Sometimes, no matter how well prepared we are, things will not go as expected. But I hope that doesn't come for you. Let's hope on a positive. When it comes,
Yeah, then it's okay for me. I gotta go through that experience too then.
we'll talk about that next time if that ever happens. And also remember, you were doing some races or anything. So this is not particularly about the ultras, but maybe you can relate to it as a run as well. So have you ever seriously considered quitting mid run? And in that moment, what pulled you through it?
There was this half marathon last year, last spring. That was just before I decided to get into ultra running. I had prepared so well for that one, and then it just didn't go well. Like halfway, I was crashing because I had gone out too fast and because it was really warm, and I was just so pissed about everything. I wanted to run fast, but I couldn't because my legs weren't cooperating and my stomach was doing crazy things. And I was just there in the middle of this race, and I thought I could go home now. I'd like to go home now, but somehow I have to finish this thing just because I gotta finish what I started here. And it's just, I thought, like, it's just 11 kilometers left. Somehow you can do that. And yeah, I did. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't fun at all, but I finished that thing. But that one was maybe also something that led to my decision to get away from road running and get into trail running. Yeah, it just wasn't fun. Not at
I
all.
can totally relate to that. It has happened to me the last half too. I was just like, it started hurting some point, like on the marathons too, the same thing. It's just like, because, and it's just, can I not do it? Because you are so focused and trying to get the time and everything, then it just, do I
Mhm.
have to do this? And right now, I just feel that for every run.
Yeah.
I'm just like, do I have to run? Do I really need to run? Can I just not do it?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
tough
yeah.
because
I
it's
remember that incident because you put it on Instagram. I remember you running halves and then you were trying to get a PR and you were chasing it so hard and then you were just like, oh God. And then I heard you saying, oh, it was not good. And then you were really down at the time.
yeah. I have run 2 other half marathons after that one, and they went pretty well. So it's not like I won't ever do a road race again. Like I'm occasionally doing some just for fun. I'm not training specifically for them here and there. I'm gonna do them, but then I try to not put too much pressure on myself. Like I can say I haven't trained for this, so it doesn't turn out well then. That's okay.
Yeah, there is excuse for it.
Yeah, somehow.
What role does visualization or mental preparation play in your training?
I would say not such a big role already. For the 100, tried to somehow visualize certain points of the race, or I tried to prepare mentally for the pain that I was expecting. So I thought, like, when I feel this or that way, then I'm gonna try to do this or that to distract myself from it. But then at the same time, I thought I can't really prepare for what's to come because it's just so uncertain and it's such a long distance and you never know what might happen on the way. So anything can happen, and then you just gotta adapt and gotta improvise.
Let's take back to that moment where you were doing that half marathon and everything was not going as right as you said. And
Yeah.
even on the ultras where you were just waiting for that thing, but it never happened. So how do you prepare for those kind of situation, or how can you get away from those kind of situation?
In such moments, I just remind myself of the fact that I'm doing this for fun. I chose to do that. And if I wanted, I could just stop and go home. Like, I don't have to hold on to it or have to torture myself or something. So, if it gets really tough, then I can stop and, yeah, just don't keep doing it. But deep inside, I know that I want to do it. And even if it gets tough, that's part of the journey. And then I tell myself, like, this ain't gonna last forever. So it may feel shit right now, but that won't last. And that helps me in such moments.
Okay. And also, what's one piece of gear that you cannot race without?
When it comes to ultra trail, it's definitely my vest, hydration vest, because when I go into a longer ultra or now for the 100K, I felt like I'm carrying like my whole life in that vest, just all the stuff that I may need for that long journey. And also my poles are a really important piece of gear for me. That since I learned running with them, they are really great to save the legs at certain points in the race. And I think I wouldn't race any ultra with any significant elevation gain without my poles.
So when you decided to go from road running to ultras, how did you decide on your go-to trail shoes?
I think I read a few reviews about different trail running shoes, and then I heard about the Innovate shoes. There were pretty good reviews, and I thought, why not just order them and try them? I'm that kind of person who just order running shoes on the internet, and I'm just like, okay, let's see. Either it works or it doesn't. I just try it. And then I got them, the Innovate, and I used them right out of the box for my first 46K ultra.
What?
And it turned out well. I was lucky.
You are the second person who did that. I was talking to Timothy, and he said he also runs shoes off the box. It's crazy when you talk about
Yes,
it
but yeah.
because I cannot imagine doing that. But I guess the shoes are nice.
Yeah, they are. Absolutely.
I may have to ask for you again later on. If you can send me the link.
That's fine.
And also, you said vest and poles are
Yeah.
your lifeline when you're doing the ultra running. Do you have a preferred brand for them?
My vest is also Innovate. First, I had the Salomon vest that almost everyone has. It's like the
Yeah.
gold card, the Salomon Advanced Skin 12. I liked that vest, but then I got the Innovate with a volume of liters because I thought I might need some more storage for really long races. I got that one, and now I actually prefer it over the Salomon vest. And my poles are leaky. That's also the standard, but they are pretty good.
And also, you probably have tried a lot of things and gears in your journey so
Mhm.
far because you do so much things. Has there anything that you have tried and then ditched it because you wanted better gear or something?
Yes, there is one item that I tried and that I really didn't like, and that's my hydration bladder. Because I tried that thing. I got one because I thought, oh, it's 1.5 liters of fluids that I can get in there and just carry it on my back. And I thought it would be a good item for me, but it really wasn't because I don't like the sound of the water when it's moving inside the bladder. And also, it was leaking sometimes, and I really didn't like that. So now I'm only running with soft flasks and then take two into the pockets on the front and like maybe two or three more in the back pocket, and then I switch them. But I have never used that bladder again.
Oh, okay. So this might be helpful for you. It is because there is air in the bladder. What
Uh,
you have to do is you have to do upside down and you have to suck out the air, and then that doesn't happen after that.
I heard about that, but when I turned it upside down, then it was leaking, and also inside the bag, it was inside the pocket, it was leaking sometimes. So maybe I just got a bad one,
Bad.
but now I prefer the flasks and
That's
I'm getting along well with them. So I think I stick to that one.
This would be interesting because your journey has progressed, right? Before you were just doing half, but for you it is little bit. You started slow, but then the distance kept getting bigger and bigger. And I'm sure that there has been a lot of change in your nutrition along the way while you were running the fuel.
Yes.
How has your fuel strategy changed from doing the smaller distance to bigger distances?
When I ran only half marathons, I used gels exclusively, only these little gel packages. But when I switched to ultra distances, then I thought, like, after a few hours of run, I really don't like the gels anymore because it's always sweet and sticky. I switched to using solid foods too. And now I'm using gels a lot, but not only them. So for my long runs, I usually have a few gels and then some little snacks like candy, salt pretzels, stuff like that. And that's also what I did for the ultra races. So gels and then snacks, also salty snacks, not only sweet ones, because after a certain time, you just want to have something that doesn't taste sweet.
And also gel after a certain period of time, if you're putting it on your pocket and then when your body's temperature rises, then
Yes, that's
it
disgusting.
starts to taste bad.
Yeah, it gets really warm and it's not the most delicious thing.
Because you sell and then when it is warm, it tastes like shit. Summer is coming. Obviously, I'm
Yes.
just trying to figure out how I can make it cooler because people in it, it's gonna be
Yeah,
a challenge.
because if you put it in some pocket far away from your body, let's say, then you can't reach it while running, and yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, and it hot gels does not.
No, not at all.
And also, you said that while you are doing your fueling strategy, you do solid food, gels, or
Yes.
liquid calories. So, which do you prefer? This
I actually think a mixture of all of them. Liquid calories, not so much. Like, I do have a drink mix that contains carbohydrates, but I don't really like it because it's also sweet and everything is sweet. So the gels are sweet, and then when I drink something and that's also sweet, I don't like that. So I prefer plain water to drink, but a mixture of gels and solid foods like snacks and also salty snacks. Yeah.
career so far, running experience or running career, have you ever bunked hard? And if you
Yes.
did, then what did you learn from that experience?
That's again one thing that happened during this stupid half marathon last year. I bonked so hard and wasn't prepared for it because my training went well, everything went well, and then the race itself didn't. And I was like, why does this have to happen? And then I just told myself that I'm gonna finish these last 10 kilometers, 11 kilometers. And I think I told myself something like, now just go finish this thing and then you never have to do it again. You never have to run a road half marathon again if you don't want to. And I don't really know if I learned a lot from that one. Maybe what I learned from it is that even if your training goes well, if everything goes well on race day, it can still all go wrong. And
Yeah.
sometimes you just don't know why because there are so many things that can happen and your body may just not be in the position on that day to run the time that you imagined. And then you just gotta accept it and make the most of it somehow.
Yeah, and also I think you finish the race because that is also a huge thing because sometimes we don't realize, but if things are going down, like in your case, like it was not going well, but you still had that mental fortitude and resilience that you were like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do it. It's only
Yes.
11 kilometers, and then it is 10, and then 9. So I think that's really awesome too because you didn't give up when things were not in your favor or it was
Yeah,
not going out too well. So yeah.
true.
Like you said, it's easier to quit, right? But you didn't quit and you just kept going and going. And that's great because that's, I think, one of the things I learned being a runner is even though sometimes things may not work, like you said, you can have a wonderful training and
Yeah,
everything could work like 100% the training. But in the rest day, none of that matters because none of matters how you train or what you train. Sometimes it's just mental game
yeah,
and just that day because you may wake up and feel sick or something may happen, upset stomach, injuries or whatever while running. So it matters like how you finish it and then whether you quit it or not. And I think most don't like to quit.
yeah,
So we
no,
will,
no.
yeah, we will run until we have to crawl. We'll do it.
Yeah, that's what we do. That's what I said before my first bigger ultra with lots of elevation. I said to my boyfriend, I will run as much as I can and I will walk when I have to. And if I have to crawl to that finish line, I'm going to do it because I just finished this one.
I think that's one thing. And unless it is practically impossible for us to do it,
Yeah.
I think we'll not stop. I think that's one of the awesome things, or I think that made us really tough is no matter how the situation, we'll always try to get it done. And also, you have done so many runs, long runs, like continuously longer runs over the weekend, and then your 100. In some of those races or runs, there might be a bigger altitude compared to other elevation gains might be higher. How do you recover from those big runs?
I try to fuel pretty well already during the run because that helps a lot with recovery after the run. After the run, I also eat a lot. I just try to get those calories in, get those fluids in, and then, yeah, of course, rest. I gotta say that I'm not the best sleeper, so sleep is very important for recovery, but especially when my training load is really high, then my body feels stressed and then my sleep gets worse than it should be. But I still try to get in at least a good amount of sleep, even if the sleep quality isn't great. And I also try to not put too much stress on my body apart from running. Of course, I gotta go to work. I have my daily life that I need to tackle, but I try to relax a lot when I'm not at work or not running, then I'm lying in bed a lot just to let my body relax. And that's what I do. And so far, it has worked well.
That is one of the things I noticed too, was when I did the bigger runs, like a marathon, harder runs, then my body is getting a good amount of sleep. Like
Yes.
in other days where I do shorter runs, then my sleep is a little bit weird when I do the longer and harder runs.
Yeah.
It doesn't recover as quickly as the other one.
Yeah.
Do you take any ibuprofen sometimes, or just let it?
Only when I get a headache. I'm a person that gets headaches a lot, unfortunately, especially when I'm very stressed. Then I take painkillers because I just can't deal with this headache. But I don't take painkillers because I have any pains from running.
Okay. I usually take after my long runs. I'm like, okay, I can't deal with this. I need to sleep properly. Like I
Okay. And does it help you with sleep if you take them?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
because if I know that I did a marathon or something, the pain will be there, but I will have at least a better sleep if I take the ibuprofen compared to
Yeah.
without not having it. Because otherwise I'm just gonna twist and turn, and that's not gonna help. So
Yeah.
especially if I do a hard run, then I know you're not supposed to take that because it can impaired with the healing. Because when I did my certification, that's what I learned was that you shouldn't take medication,
Yeah.
especially when you run, and then if it hurts because of running, then the inflammation kind of thing, then the medicine doesn't really help because it's
Yeah.
impaired and it stopped the recovery. I try
Yeah.
not to take it, but especially if I have a hard runs and then I'm like, okay, I think I need to take it, then I can recover the next day. But that day I just want to sleep.
Oh, yeah. I get it.
And also, your training load is incredible, right? So you run a lot, especially with your big runs on the weekends and stuff like that. So what does your typical week look
In
like?
the preparation for the 100K race, I would often run like 7 days a week, like every day. There were some weeks where I did 6 days, but mostly were like 7 days. On Monday, I usually do some kind of tempo training, speed session, and then strength training afterwards. Then Tuesday, Wednesday would be easy runs. Like Wednesday, often longish runs, like up to 20 kilometers before work. Then on Thursday, it's again speed and strength. On Friday, easy run. And then Saturday is usually my long run day where I hit the trails. So that would be a long run with lots of elevation gain. And then on Sunday, another long run, yeah, either on the trails or on the road. Depends on if I feel like commuting to the trails again or not. But yeah, the weekend is usually back to back long runs.
I've seen that. Insane. Insane. And also, how do you balance when you are running such incredible distances in a week? Because you are constantly hitting, and then, like you said, you are doing two long runs, and then there is a one long run in the middle. So,
Yeah.
how are you balancing everything?
I just like running so much. It's more like I'm looking forward to most runs that I'm doing, so it doesn't feel like a chore or I have to do it now. So I'm looking forward to it. It's more my time out from work and from daily stress. And yeah, as I said before, when I'm not working or running, then I'm just resting, trying to rest as much as possible. Of course, then there isn't much time for anything else. But that's what I chose to do. Wanted to say something else about that, but I forgot. Maybe it's coming back.
Yeah, we can come back to it again later on if you remember it.
Yeah, maybe.
And also, you said that in your plans there is some tempo run, there is some speed session,
Yes.
and there is depending as how do you plan this kind of runs? Are the hills always gonna be on the weekend and stuff like that?
Yeah, since I'm living in a very flat city or in a very flat area in general, I can't really run runs with lots of elevation during the week because I just don't have the time to commute to the hillier or mountainous areas. It's usually only on the weekends where I get in a significant amount of elevation. But yeah, I wasn't sure before the 100K if that would be enough elevation, but I couldn't do it any other way. And obviously, it was enough, so it worked out. But now, for my next big race, which is going to have even more elevation gain than the 100K did, I thought about maybe going to the gym once or twice a week and just train on the stair stepper because I know that I need to get stronger at hiking really steep uphills for that race.
Yeah, some masts are really good. I think
Yeah.
that's what you have to do if you don't have hill. And
Yes.
how long is your train ride? Like during the weekend, how far do you have to go for
Approximately 90 minutes one way.
90?
Yes.
Wow, dang. So 90 minutes and then few hours and then
Yeah,
back.
so it's basically the whole day. I start really early. I take the first train at 7 a.m. so that I'm back in the afternoon, but still it's a lot of time I spend out there.
That's just the commitment that we have for running.
Yes, but I'm looking forward to those runs, especially because it's the only time in the week that I actually get to run in some mountains, and I love that. I love my long trail runs.
Yes, trails are nice. I also enjoyed when I was running to a body marathon because there is a trail nearby, and it's such a nice feeling because it's quiet and green and everything, and it's just such a nice feeling. And also, you said you do strength training twice a week. So, what kind of strength training or mobility workout do you incorporate?
I'm using kettlebell workouts that I do at home because I really don't have the time to go to the gym right now. For the next training block, I might have to, but until now, I just used my kettlebells. I have one 10 kilogram and one 16 kilograms. And with those two, I'm doing basically everything. So, like mostly single leg exercises, like Bulgarian split squats. That's what I was looking for. And single leg deadlifts and calf raises, but also training for the upper body because I have to carry my heavy vest and I have to use the poles. And so I also have to train upper body strength. And I do these strength workouts on the days where I also do my speed sessions. So if my body is exhausted, then it's really exhausted, and then I can take it easier the next day.
That's what I remember. You said you're gonna do speed runs twice a week and then do the strength training right after that.
Yeah, for me, it works pretty well, gotta say.
So when you were leading up to the 100K, how did your taper look like?
I did a 2 weeks taper. I had first thought about doing 3 weeks, but then I felt like that might be too long, so that I might feel too flat on race day. So I did 2 weeks and I just went down with the volume. I think in the first week of tapering, I did like only half of the volume I did before. And then in the second week of tapering, the week with race day, I did like only 3 little runs and tried to relax a lot, and also switched some runs for a walk. So I would get in some light movement, keep my legs moving, but just don't stress my body out. I also didn't strength train in the taper, like not in the last taper week. I think in the first taper week, I did a light strength session, but in the second one, I'd skip it. So my legs would feel as fresh as possible on race day.
And also, I think this is something I wanted to know is how do you mentally prepare yourself?
For the race itself, I prepared, as I said before, I prepared for it to hurt. I tried to prepare myself for the moments where I might want to quit. And I told myself that I would remind myself of why I'm doing this and how much I've trained for this and that I can do it. I would tell myself that I'm absolutely capable of doing this, even if it gets tough, and that it would be rewarding to push through hard moments. That's what I told myself before. And then in the race, I really didn't need any positive self talk because I was just feeling so good all the time.
So you get one banana and a medal. This is all for that. Just for one banana medal.
Yeah, I didn't even get a medal. We didn't get medals at that race. I'm a bit sad
Really?
about that. Yeah, but we got a t-shirt and a buff, and yeah.
What?
Yeah, but it was at the pasta party the evening before when other runners that had run it in the year before told me like, "No, we don't get medals." And it's like, "What?"
Yeah.
Was
Said,
silver. Yeah.
I think we talked about this before. You said since you live in a flat land, you're not far away from me. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, a few hours away. In some races where the elevation will be particularly high, like you said, your next race is the elevation is particularly high. Do you? I know you have to commute a lot. So is that a plan for the next race as well, where you have to go and do that kind of thing?
I think I might do it very similarly to the 100K preparation. Like, I will also commute to the trails on the weekend, on Saturday, or maybe on both days, and then hit the gym at least once a week and just get in some additional elevation or climbing training on the Stairmaster or maybe on the treadmill. I gotta see. Or what I thought about was just walking up and down the staircase in our house like multiple times. Maybe I could do that too after my runs and then just go up and down a few times because I think any training with climbing will help me for that race.
Definitely. That will count because
Yeah,
you generally going up and down, and then that's how it's going to be a
yeah,
system. Because if you come up, then you definitely have to go down too. So I think that would work.
yeah. And what I also thought about was that I have to use, if possible, even higher weights for my leg exercises to get more strength into my legs. I think they're pretty strong already, but I don't know if they are already strong enough for the terrain.
If you're taking the stairs, you can carry the weight too.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
great idea. I
that
think
would.
the neighbors will give some weird looks, but I can deal with that.
Yeah, it's just like you can put on a t-shirt saying, "Don't worry me, I'm training for a race." And also, Since you do ultra running and everything, do you have a off season where you just work on the cross training, biking, hiking?
Not really, because I just like running too much. So, yeah, when I finished my ultra last autumn, then I told myself, okay, now I can do a few months of, or I guess 2 months of lighter training, or maybe not run as much before I go into the training cycle for the 100K. But then I just found myself running pretty high volume still because it's just so fun to me and I just love running and I don't feel like myself. And there's no other sport so far that gives me the same joy as running does. I might try to run a little less than I would do in a training cycle or not put the pressure on myself that I have to do certain runs or certain workouts, but I will still run a lot.
I can relate to that. This has been my off season, not intentionally, but after the marathon didn't run as much as, so now just starting feel like zero. But I can relate to you. After my marathon too, I just could have taken a week off, but no, I think you just want to keep running and running. It's
Yeah,
fun when you're loving it. It's like one of the best thing you can do. It
yeah,
just because that feeling when you're going in the trail and then like climbing up the mountains, the hills, and then going down hills, and then the wind behind you and everything.
yeah,
It's like a great feeling.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Unfortunately, I don't feel it right now. So this
It will come back to you.
hopefully this new training block is going to be different. And also, you do so much thing. You're running a lot, strengthening and everything. Are you still experimenting in some sort of ways for your training? Do you do things differently and see, okay, I want to do that and see if it works or not?
At this point, not really, because right now I feel like I've found out what works for me and how I trained for the 100K worked out really well. So I think I'm gonna stick to that scheme, do it similarly for the following ultras. I might do a little less tempo training here or there because I know that if you run faster, there's always a bigger risk of possibly getting injured or something. It's a fine balance.
It is, and I learned the hard way because
Yeah.
Bird Marathon, it was taper week. So technically, I should be chilling and not running, but I was so focused on getting that. So for I was pushing myself to the limit, and then 10 days before the race, my quad was like done, and I couldn't recover from that. And like you said, there is a fine balance because maybe 5 seconds more you could get hurt. So you have to, yeah, you could have really thread yourself how fast you wanna go.
Yes. I felt like in the last weeks leading up to my 100K, I was like so careful, or I thought before every run, it was like, oh shit, I gotta be careful and not get injured right now because I've come so far in this training cycle. And what if I get injured now would be so frustrating. And yeah, that's was stressful
It
because you
is.
never know. Yeah, it can happen anytime.
Yeah, that should have been my mindset to take it easy because you have come so long. Maybe I could have got the goal I wanted. Maybe I could have been enjoying. But then we have this problem where we want to run faster. I think now I'm much calmer. Now I don't care. I've done so many things now where I don't care about time or anything because I want to run. I will run the speed that I need to, but now I don't try to overdo it.
Yeah,
That has been my biggest lesson is to
that's
make
good.
yourself content.
Yeah.
And also, I think I wanted to ask this question earlier on, so now here it is. You have done such a long distance, 104K.
Yeah.
What has been your biggest takeaway from that race?
I noticed that it just didn't hurt, what was surprising, and how I was surprised that ultra running doesn't have to be painful and hard. But also, I think if it had gotten hard, I have a really strong will when it comes to running, really strong. And I think even if I get to a point where it might get really tough or a race where everything goes wrong, that my mind can still carry me through it because I just want this so much. And yeah, that will take me anywhere, I think.
Now I'm thinking back, like, was that the question I wanted to ask? Now, I don't remember that question earlier on when we were talking about it. I'm trying to think. Okay, maybe yeah, it will come back in a bit. And also, there are a few races coming up. Which one are you most excited about and why?
Right now, I'm most excited about my next one, which is a 84-kilometer race with 5,000 meters of elevation in the Austrian Alps by the end of July. And I'm very excited for that one simply because that one might get really tough for me because I've never run in high alpine terrain before. That's going to be new for me. Also, the high altitude because there
5,000.
are a lot of sections above 2,000 meters, and I'm not used to that because I live in the flatlands. So that might get pretty tough, yeah. But I'm also looking forward to it so much because I think the views are going to be incredible. I'm going to race in the Alps and in high Alpentara. That's something I wanted to do since I started ultra running.
I want to understand this. You live in a place where there is no elevation at all, right? It's
Yes.
basically flat. You don't have this ability where you're running in the high elevation, like you said,
Hmm.
where the air is thinner, stuff like that. And then you decided to go and do a ultra 84 miles, that's little bit over 100 kilometers more, and 5,000 elevation. What? Why?
I love the challenge.
So how did you came to that point that you were like, is it because you wanted to do it or you want to test yourself or do you want to see how far you can get? Or is
No,
it all
actually, I just want to do that race because when I was like 13 or 14 years old, I was in Austria with my parents and we were near the highest mountain of Austria, the Großglockner. And that's also the mountain where we are going to race. We're not going to race up that mountain, but around that mountain in that race. And I loved that place back then when we were there. And when I found out that there's an ultra trail, then I was like, I have to do this. I really want to do this.
Oh God. So are you training with the mask on? Because you know there is a mask you can get that can emulate you the high altitude training because that's what people do.
I thought about it, but I don't know yet. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just gonna try to do the best I can in with the training possibilities I have and then just hope that I get through on race day. But I think I might be a lot slower than I would usually be because of the thinner air, but still I think it's doable.
From 100K, this is going to be more challenge. 5,000 meter of elevation. That's incredible and insane. So what's next? Are you going to go for 100 miler in
Yes.
2026?
That's
Yes,
what I
so
want to
fast.
do. No, I have another 100K this year in October, and I also thought about doing a 140K by the end of November, so as the last race of this year somehow, but I'm still debating whether I do that or not. But then I think next year is going to be the year of the first 100 miler. Yes.
I just want to do 100 miler at just like a Christmas present for myself and see if I want to.
No, I think next year will be fine.
Yeah, it's a lot. 84 to 116 miles, so that's still a huge distance. And is the 100 miler that you're doing has a higher elevation or something, or is it same in October?
Don't know yet. I haven't picked one because here in Germany there aren't as many 100 milers. Anything above 100K is pretty rare. There are a few though. I think the race that I did where I raced the 100K, they also had a 100 miler, but unfortunately there isn't a big chance that this race is also going to be again next year. So if it happens next year, then I will go back there and do the 100 miler. I'm just hoping it will work. But if not, then I'm going to have to look for another one. That's fine too.
There is a 100-mile race in Berlin. I
I'm
forgot
thinking,
the name because I'm in the trail running chat group and
yeah, I
they,
think this week,
yeah,
something like
it's a
that.
big
Yeah,
one. Yeah, a lot of it's very popular race and a lot of people do it. It's 124 hours and 100
yeah.
miles.
But I don't know. I think it doesn't have enough elevation gain for me. If I do a 100 miler, I want it to be on trails and yeah.
Oh God, it's not that's too easy. I don't want that.
No, honestly, I feel like doing a flat 100 miler or even a flat 100K. I imagine it to be so much harder than doing on the trails, actually. I think if it is flat, then you could basically run all the time. You won't have an excuse to not run. But
Okay.
if you're on the trails, then you can't run certain sections and you always have to hike and have to walk in between. And I think that's less tough for me, at least, than just running like 100 kilometers on a flat road. That sounds grueling to me.
I never thought of that. I thought it would be easier. But then again, doesn't it come down to the mindset at being content and being okay to walk in the flat?
I'm not okay with walking in the flat. I would walk for certain in such a long distance, but then I would stress myself out that I don't walk too much and then I get back to running very soon. And I don't know, because that's just the stress of road racing for me.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
relate to that. Say at this particular moment, somebody is listening to you and they're like, oh, maybe I should get into ultras. Or, for instance, I'm listening to you right now, right? So I'm doing my first ultra.
Yes.
So, what would be your advice that would give to someone who is potentially doing their first ultra?
I gotta say, just get in the mileage. I think it's important, or at least for me, it was pretty good to actually learn to run a lot on exhausted legs so that the body gets used to being exhausted and still moving. There are people who are running ultras with very little mileage in their training, and that works well too. But I think if you want to minimize the pain during the race, then it would be good to get in some higher mileage. And if you do, then also make sure to eat a lot. Or just if your body tells you to eat, then do that because he knows best when he needs calories.
So 2 runs on the weekends, eat a lot. Got it.
The back-to-back long runs are pretty good preparation because you don't run like, I don't know, 50, 60K in training. You could do, some people do, but I didn't. I didn't do any run longer than 44 kilometers in my preparation for the 100K, which is not even half of it, but I did many back-to-back long runs and yeah, that worked out pretty well.
In your opinion, mine is 56 kilometers. What would be my longest back-to-back long runs? 30.
Yeah, I think you could even do 30 and 20K. Don't even have to do two 30Ks. What I think it would be enough.
God, I would have been in peak condition last year because I was doing 20 and 20, so I could have easily done. I was doing half marathon in 2 weekends. I could have done that. Right now, I'm just so out of shape, or not out of shape, I would say, but out of training to run the long run.
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I should have done it last year. Now I'm like having doubts of myself.
Yeah, but I think you get back to it pretty quickly because you've done it before. So it's not really new for your body.
Yeah, I'm just trying to heal back from this injury because
Yeah.
it's been maybe it will be 2 weeks in Sunday, but I thought it would be better. But I keep running on it, and I think that's not good.
Yeah, I know the struggle. I've been surprised that I didn't catch any injury during my 100K training block because I was expecting it. But I think it helps a lot if you don't do your long runs exclusively on road. I think because I've done a lot of long runs on the trails and you walk a lot in between, you hike a lot, you run on different surfaces, then you have a not such a big risk of injury like if you're exclusively running on road. I think that might have been it.
I think when you're running on a road, then you're used to run because, like you said, it's you don't have to stop and
Yeah.
you don't want to stop when you're running on the road. So when you switch from road running to ultra running, how did you transition to running all the time to walking, and how did you change your mindset to that? Because it's pretty difficult. Now I think about it, then I really don't like to walk when I'm running because I am so used to, and like you said, the road running is that kind of thing where you are pushing yourself all the time and you keep running and running. So how
Yeah.
do you change that mindset?
I just had to. I was forced to change it because when I got to the trails or in the Harz Mountains, there were mountains that I just couldn't run up. It would have been stupid to run up these mountains because they were so steep, and I was faster when I was walking them up when I was hiking. And then I also discovered that even the elites, the pro runners, are not running all those trails because in some cases it just doesn't make sense to run anymore because you just have to conserve your energy. And then I thought, okay, it's fine if I do this. And also in ultra races, everybody walk, like at least in ultra races with lots of elevation gain.
That's gonna be a big mindset for me to be okay. I think that's the struggle is when being a runner for so long, you need to be okay to do it. This is a completely different
Yeah,
mindset.
it is. But now I actually enjoy walking. I don't enjoy walking during my road runs, but when I'm on the trails, then I enjoy my walking breaks because then I can just eat and drink in peace. And it's not as stressful than trying to eat something while running. But I gotta say that once I walked more and hiked more, I got really fast. I got a really fast hiker and walker, and that's cool too. That's also a skill that is good to have for long ultra races.
And also, do you do all of your runs in the road or like in the trail or just in the trail? Like when you're
No,
running
my
every day?
my runs during the week are mostly on road because I just don't have access to any kinds of trail where I live. So they're on road. I don't prefer it, but it doesn't work any other way right now. And then the weekends are for the trails.
Okay, we have few questions, but
Yeah.
one would be when you transitioned from the running half marathon and you're like, okay, I'm done, and then the Barkley came into play.
Yeah.
What is the most surprising thing that you learned about yourself while running the ultra marathons or ultra running?
I think this is also something that has got to do with my will to do things because I always knew that I'm ambitious, and if I put my mind to something, then I won't stop until I finish it. But getting into ultra running has made it even clearer that I have this strong will, and this will get me through a lot of things. Like, I didn't really doubt my ability to finish this 100K at all because I knew that I was also well prepared, and I knew that, but I also knew that I really wanted to do this and that I can do this simply because I want to. And so I also think if I attempt a 100 miler next year, then yeah, I will be able to finish it just because I want to, because I put my will to it. And then I'm willing to put in the work to be able to do it.
Shit. Okay, so these are the regular questions that I had for you. So now there will be some rapid fire questions that you don't know. So
Okay.
if you can, then please answer this whatever comes to your mind. Okay, no thinking. Just it's gonna be one or the other answer. So it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Poles or no poles?
Poles, definitely.
Sunrise or sunset runs?
Sunrise,
Mountains or forest?
mountains,
Mud or snow?
snow. Absolutely. I hate mud.
Me too. I don't like my shoes dirty.
No, and I know a lot of trail runners enjoy running through mud, and I just don't get it. I hate running through mud. If I can avoid the mud, then I will avoid it.
Me too. I don't like my shoes being dirty, so I think that's one
Yeah.
reason for me is I cannot do it.
Yeah, and I don't enjoy the feeling of cold water and mud getting into my shoes. That just feels disgusting to me.
Yeah,
No.
yucky
Just
feeling.
no.
Same. Headlamps or handheld lights?
Headlamp.
Favorite mid-race snack?
Sour candy.
Dream race.
That's hard. Rest destination.
Yeah, dream race destination.
I think at the moment it's Austria, where I'll be racing in July.
Worst blister story.
I don't tend to get blisters, fortunately. During the 100K, I got one bad blister, and it was on the edge of my right heel. And that one, I didn't notice it until the end of the race. But in the days after the race, it was really bothering me because every time I would put on a shoe, that would rub across this blister, and it was huge, the blister. So, yeah, that was pretty annoying. But I was lucky that I didn't feel it during the race.
God, that sounds awful.
I just remembered I have another one. After my 65K last autumn, I got a really bad blood blister under the nail on my left foot.
Yeah.
That was disgusting. And I
And
felt like the toenail was coming
come on.
upwards, and I just had to pop the blister underneath it so it would go back to normal.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. Yeah.
You asked,
Yeah, that's like
yeah, get used to it. If you get into trail running, then soon you will.
okay. Morning coffees or post-run beer?
None of them, because I don't drink coffee and I don't drink beer.
Music, podcast, or silence on solo runs?
Silence. I never listen to anything.
During your ultras too.
Yeah, I always have my headphones with me just in case that I really need some distraction, but I've never used it so far because I just enjoy running to the sound of nature and with my own thoughts.
Wow. Okay. Interesting to know. Like sometimes to just listen to it, but I usually run with music. But even if I don't put the music, then I always have my headphones on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that, but during my last ultra, during the 100K, I saw like the majority of the runners didn't listen to anything. They were running without headphones just like me. And I think in ultra running, it might be less people listening to music during running than in road running from my
Because it's
experience. Yeah.
because it's fun.
Yeah, I think so.
So I have last question. I think this I asked everybody. Running has changed my life because
Because it showed me what I'm capable of, or that I'm capable of more than I thought I would be. Yeah.
awesome. Ah, that is beautiful. And so been or
I mean,
I just wanted to ask that because we didn't talk about your watch. All right, I think this is it. This was fun. I got
yeah,
to know you more. I was only talking to you on Instagram, just on DM, but now I'm able to see you and talk to you, and it's really nice.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it too. It was really cool. I was a bit nervous before, but it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And I really appreciate you taking your time on Friday and then talking to me while you're on vacation. So really appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
And yeah, this will be a nice episode. And I learned a lot of trail running as well, like some of the tips. I'm gonna use it for my trail running as well. So yeah, thank you for that, and we'll see you again after your another epic races.
Yes.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you and have a good day.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thank you for making it to the end of the podcast. I hope you really enjoyed this conversation. I'll see you again next time with another guest. Until then, happy running.